Welcome in to ROC Hockey Weekly. I am Rachel Liebert. Thad Brown, of course, joining me today in the studio as well. And today is a very special episode. We've got a very special guest in the studio with us today. He's the longest tenured play-by-play broadcaster in the history of the AHL. He's a Hall of Famer, and most notably, he is the voice of the Rochester Amherst. Don Stevens is in the studio today. Don, thank you so much for joining us. How are you today?
Great. Thank you for the introduction. That was very nice.
We are so happy to have you here. A lot to get to today. But Don, you have obviously spent the last 40 years with the Amherst. Now you're calling your final season before your retirement that you announced earlier. Before the season started, just tell me why you decided now is the time to, step away from the broadcast booth.
Well, it's been a decision that's sort of been a long time coming. And I don't know if you can tell by looking at the screen, but I'm like old. And the one thing that's getting to me is the travel. It's not easy at this level in the American Hockey League, the travel, and so that was one thing. The other thing is that the mind after a while starts to I don't know if you call it slowing down or what happens, but I'm finding that I'm making more mistakes. I don't think I have the excitement level that I did before, and I've always said that the one thing that I don't want to do is to embarrass the team or embarrass myself, and so this really is the time, I think, because I kind of feel like I'm going out on top. Everything is going so well right now, and I'm being treated so well that I don't know that I could go out in a better position than I am right now, so I'm taking advantage of that, I guess.
I got to talk to Chris Brown, the Bills play-by-play announcer, a couple weeks ago, and one of the questions I asked him was, what is it like to be the voice of a team? For you, you've been the voice of the Amherst for 40 years now. What does that mean to you?
There's so many of those questions that I don't know if I'm really going to figure out the answers to those until after I've been out of it, maybe for a while. It's just something that everybody says, and I've just become used to it, and it's like, oh, yeah, okay, well, I'm the voice of the team. But I think probably my consideration might be a little different. It's not so much how I feel about being the voice of the team, because to me, it's about the team. Mm-hmm. I think of the team and the players and what goes on there is what's important. And so I'm kind of avoiding what your question is, because I really don't know how to answer it right now. It means a lot. It's especially over the years, we've had dry years here in Rochester where things did not go very well as far as ownership and so on and so forth. So they say, okay, well, you're the only stabilizing factor there's been over all those down years. So that means something, and it's a great franchise. It's an outstanding franchise, and it's one of the top sports leagues in the world. Mm-hmm. And to be the voice of one of the top teams in the league, which is one of the top leagues in the world, it does carry meaning. But like I say, I don't think it's really going to hit home until I'm done exactly how much it's meant to me.
Now, you being the voice of the Amherst, you are obviously very good at telling a story through maybe those people who aren't watching the game, but they're listening to the game. How have you kind of honed in on that and been able to just paint such a colorful picture of what's going on in front of you?
Actually, hockey's easy. I don't know, maybe because I'm a Canadian. I was born almost on skates and that, but hockey's easy because all I'm doing is talking about what's going on, what I see in front of me. I'm the listener's TV set. And so that's easy to do. Now, versus I did baseball for a few years in the Pacific Coast League. That's not easy to do because you've got to know 85,000 stories every night to tell and all the different things, especially when it's a slow game and there's so many stoppages in that during the break. And so that's not easy. And I was talking with Thad earlier. I did World Team Tennis, and that was tough. That was really hard because the ball just going bang, 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 back and forth, and so that was hard. But hockey to me is easy. It's simple. I just say what I see, and it seems to work.
The story about how you started, I've seen it told a few times now, you were in college and not really had a focus on what you wanted to do. And mom said, hey, you talk a lot. Why don't you get into radio? And from there was a 1-year training course. You ended up finally latching on and finding your calling. What was it about broadcasting that really worked for you, that got you to stick? Because you could have taken that 1-year course and then gone back to playing cards or whatever it was you're doing. Why did broadcasting work so well for you?
Yeah, well, that's what I said that I was talking to, and actually I've said the story many times, is that it was something that I was, because I didn't know what to do. Mm-hmm. I didn't know what I wanted to do, where I wanted to be, or anything. It was, like you said, it was my mother suggested, well, get into broadcasting. She figured it out and found a broadcasting school to go to and all that. So I just kind of was playing along with it and following it and figuring, okay, well, I'll get in, I'll do this for a while, and then see what it is I'm going to do. So I'm still at that point, trying to figure out what it is I'm going to do when I grow up. So, it's just, I haven't grown up. So I've always thought I would do something else if there was something better. I never found anything better than this. And as it turns out, thank goodness, I think somebody was looking out for me and kept me in the right spot, the right place at the right time.
What do you remember from that first season you were with the Amerks? You said you're still trying to figure out what you want to do when you grow up, but when you were that young, what do you remember just that first season you were really with the team?
I wasn't young then. I was already old when I came here.
Hey, we've got some 20-year-olds in the room right now. They don't want to hear that.
And I was 37 when I came here, mm-hmm. So I'd been 17 years in the business when I came here. What I remember about that year was just magical. Everything seemed to work through the season. We had our ups and downs during that season, but in the end, winning the league championship on the last night of the season in a shootout in Binghamton was huge, and then eventually going through and winning the championship in Sherbrooke in Game 7 when we were down going into Game 6. We had to win the last two and won Game 6 at home and then Game 7 on the road. It just, everything clicked. And so that's what I remember the most. And I hate to say it, that I came to Rochester, we won the championship, and everything was downhill from there. Because I don't want to say that, but it almost turns out that way. Mm-hmm. It was just such a fabulous year.
I know you had a chance to take the LA Kings job when you were, before you even got to Rochester. I was
29.
Yeah.
Then, yeah.
How much do you ever think about the road not traveled with that opportunity?
I try not to think about it, but it's something that's always kind of has irked me that I had to turn it down. And but at the time, I was 29 years old and thinking, oh, I got plenty of time. Mm-hmm. I was getting offers all over the place to do stuff. And thought, okay, well, it'll happen, no big deal. And then as the years went by, and then I had a family and got kids, and it got to the point where I really didn't want to move my kids. And so I stopped looking, and it became a thing that wasn't going to happen. The saving grace, again, coming back to what I talked about earlier, is that here things have, somebody somewhere was looking out for me, and things turned out here, because I'm almost thinking that the way it finished up here, I'm probably better off than I would have been if I had gone on and moved to that next step.
What makes you say that? Because I think most people would think NHL is it. To look back and say the AHL was better for you. Why do you say that?
The people that are in the NHL and Major League Sports and that in the broadcasting industry and a lot of the players will say, they'll kind of say quietly, but they'll say that, you get to that next spot and it's not so much a family as it is a family here. Mm-hmm. We all are part in the same boat, and you develop such great friendships and support level here that you might not get that next step. So I don't know if it would have been better off. I would like to have had the opportunity. Still would like to have had the opportunity to reach that goal of making the show, mm-hmm. But it didn't happen. So I'm not unhappy right now with the way things have turned out.
Since you joined the Amerks, there's been a lot of changes in hockey and just sports in general. But what have you noticed, about the AHL that's maybe changed over your last 40 years with the Amerks?
12 teams when I came in, 32 teams now. I guess that's a fair difference. Mm-hmm. And it's all over the country. We were in the northeast states, and then out into the Maritimes and that in Canada but now there's teams in California and Texas and down in the South and all over the country. It's coast to coast and north and south and east and west. So that's probably the biggest thing. And of course, the one-for-one affiliations with the American Hockey League and the National Hockey League. Every team is a number one affiliate of a National Hockey League team. So that's a huge difference. As far as the game is concerned, there's a lot more skill, I think, now than there was. There was a lot more toughness back then, and that toughness, of course, sold a lot of tickets too. So but the skill is also exciting to watch. Some of these young kids are unbelievable. The things that they can do on skates, just unbelievable. So that's kind of the biggest differences.
Did you ever find yourself having to, keep up with the skill that was kind of increasing, or was this a natural evolution as the game grew, you also grew with it?
Oh yeah, and that's one thing that's happened of late, trying to keep up with it. Although I do have enough experience that I can kind of jump ahead, I sort of almost know where the puck is going to go before it gets there, and so I can kind of work ahead somewhat, but I'm not seeing it as well. I'm not seeing some of the shots as well, and not following the play as well. Again, I'm making more mistakes. They've got these little sleeve numbers, on the sleeves, and unless the guy has his back turned to you with the big numbers that I can see, if they're just those sleeve numbers, I can't really read those anymore. So, of course, our own players, I know them pretty much by the way they skate and that, but the other team, it's hard to pick up who the player is. So that's some of the things.
I'm sure you're going to get a lot of questions about your favorite call, your favorite moment. The thing I want to know, you've been to Switzerland, you've been to Alaska, you've been pretty much every small city from here to the west coast of North America. What's your most fun travel story? The time when you got stranded somewhere, or it's 1987 and you're carrying broadcast equipment that's like a small truck up and down stairs. Give me the weirdest moment from 40 years in minor league broadcasting of going all over the Northeast to cover games.
Had to push an airplane one time to get it started.
Perfect.
And there it is. That's a pretty good answer.
What's the background?
So I was in Sioux City. It was with the Sioux City Musketeers in the old U.S. Hockey League. It was semi-pro. And we would fly on a DC-3, which the heater didn't work. And we're flying over the Great Lakes, going into Thunder Bay, Ontario, and places like that. And we were in Muskegon, I think it was. And the pilot, we landed, got off the plane, and played the game. But the pilot parked the plane too far away from the terminal. Now, in order to start the plane, they had to have the starter. It was like on a two-wheel cart or whatever. And so they had to plug it in at the terminal to the cart and then plug it in from the cart to the batteries on the plane. Well, we're too far away, and it doesn't reach the jumper cables or whatever, so we all had to get off the plane and push the plane over close enough to the cart so they could connect up these jumper cables.
That's fantastic. And no security, no baggage claim or anything like that. You're doing old school airplane flying.
No, we get on.
Did you have someone outside that have to start the propeller like that at the beginning?
No,
okay.
It wasn't. It was a DC-3, a World War II airplane, a DC-3. Okay. But the weirdest one.
That's not the weirdest one.
No. I hesitate telling this because this is a long story.
Oh, we got time.
Okay, so I was in Seattle. And we were in junior hockey, and this was after I turned down the LA Kings for junior hockey, if you can believe that. We're in British Columbia playing a preseason game, and we had 3 players that hadn't gotten their papers yet. We had 2 Czechs and a Swede. No, 2 Swedes, and it doesn't make any difference. We had some Euros, right, on the bus, and we were trying to get from Kamloops to Seattle before we had to cross the border, and we couldn't get to the border, which is on the far west coast of Blaine, in time. So we tried to cross at one a little closer at Abbotsford, and we didn't have the paperwork there. They said, no, you've got to go to Blaine to get the paperwork for these players. So we couldn't get there in time. and they said, well, we can't let these players in. So one of the guys lived right there by the border and says, okay, now there's a road that runs along the Canadian side of the border. There's a ditch, and there's a road that runs along the U.S. side of the border. He said, we back out and we let the players off, and they went over to this place by the ditch, and we went back to the border, and they said, what'd you do with the players? Said, well, we dropped them at a motel for the night, right? So, and this is an old rickety bus. That's part of the story too. So we go back through, and we come down on the other side, and we get this little side road running along the side of the border, and here's the players. They come running through the ditch and up and get on the bus. And the bus, we can't get the bus in gear. This is just such a comedy of errors. And all of a sudden, pulling up beside us is a Border Patrol car.
Of course.
Yeah, and he said to the driver, who was our head scout, he said, "You got a problem?" He says, "Yeah, we can't get the bus in gear." And he says, "Well, what are you doing on this road anyway?" And he said, well, we sort of got turned off on the wrong road. And he says, "Okay, follow me. I'll get you back to the road to get to the highway to go to Seattle." So, okay, we finally got the bus in gear. We followed him down the road for 10, 15 miles or whatever, and stopped at a Border Patrol station. And I'm sorry about this story taking so long.
I want to know where this goes now. Keep going,
okay.
please. Yeah.
So we stopped there, and the Border Patrol guy says, "Okay, pull across the street into the lot for the Border Patrol, and don't get off the bus." We knew what was going on, and somebody says, "Get those guys off the bus." Mm-hmm. And this is all a wooded area around this intersection. So those three guys jumped off the bus. They ran into the woods, right? Now we're trying to get the bus across the street, and all of a sudden we hear shots being fired. And we hear one guy yelling, "Border Patrol, stop, stay where you are." So we got across the street into the thing, and pretty soon out of the woods, here comes about 6 Border Patrol guys with these 3 players. So they go into a room. We go sit on the bus. There's a Border Patrol guy gets on the bus, and he says, "You're all under arrest. Do not leave the bus." And they left a guard outside the door. So we're sitting there. I don't know. It's got to be a good 4 or 5 hours. By this time, it's like 9 o'clock at night now, getting close to 10 o'clock at night.
When was the game, by the way? The next day?
We didn't play that day. It was preseason
okay,
still.
Gotcha.
We didn't
right.
play. Okay, so after a while, we had somebody got on the bus and says, "Okay, so," and they took the coach, the head scout, and our equipment guy, and there was one, it might have been our owner even, was on the bus, and took them inside, and the rest of us are all sitting on the bus, and they called me to go off, but the coach says, "He's just a broadcaster. He has nothing to do with it. This has nothing to do with him." So they said, okay. So they left me on the bus. And I said, after a while, I said, I got to call home. Can I call my wife? And there was a telephone pole across the parking lot that had a telephone on it. And he says, "Yeah, you can go use that phone." So I go over and I call that phone. I call my wife, and she says, "Well, where are you? I thought you were supposed to be home by now." And I said, "We're at the border. We've been arrested for smuggling players." So she breaks up laughing. She's laughing all over the place. So I got back on the bus, and pretty soon somebody comes out. One of the border guys comes out and says, "Okay, the bus is confiscated. Their arrests have been made, and the U.S. attorney will be working with your team's attorney to figure out where we're going." And they said, "What we're going to do is we're going to take you to Bellingham, a small town a little ways away, and you're going to have to get off the bus at a motel." Okay, so now we've been, the league, in order to save money, they've got all the programs, right? The printed programs for the teams in the States, which was Seattle and Portland and that. And they had loaded them in underneath our bus for us to carry across the border, so they didn't have to pay duty on all of these printed magazines and stuff. So we've got these magazines underneath, and now we're headed to a motel. We've got a Border Patrol in front of us, a Border Patrol behind us, following us along. And we're going, what do we do? We can't let them see all these magazines. And so the head scout says, well, I'll take care of those guys. And when we pulled into the motel and sat there, we parked by a room, and he got the Border Patrol guy and says, well, while those guys are unloading, let's just go have a cup of coffee. So he took the Border Patrol guys, and we got in a line, and we passed all these boxes up and into a room and slammed the door shut. So anyway, to make a long story even longer, as it turns out, the results were, we asked where the players were, and they said, well, the two of them are at least halfway back to Sweden now, and the other one has got a flight later tonight, so they're gone. Mm-hmm. We never saw those players again.
No kidding.
Never saw them.
No kidding.
No. And he said, okay, none of you guys are under arrest. The U.S. attorney and your lawyer have worked out a thing, but you've lost the bus. The bus has been confiscated, and we'll be getting another bus for you tomorrow morning, which we got a bus. So we lost that bus, which was actually a good thing because it was a piece of crap.
Right.
So anyway, we lost the players, and we avoided further arrest. The team was fined $10,000 for smuggling players. And then we got another bus, which, by the way, turned out to be a loan from Victoria, or we traded a guy by the name of Tom Martin to Victoria for the down payment on this bus because we needed a bus.
You lost 3 players to immigration, and they had to trade a 4th player to get a bus back.
To get a new bus.
Fantastic.
And Bus Martin, he played in Binghamton. That's what I called him, was Bus Martin. So we get this other bus, and that made the LA Times as the trade of the year.
I bet.
In the LA Times was the trade of the year was Seattle trading this bus, or this player, to Victoria for a bus. So
amazing story. Amazing story.
I'm surprised, actually. I kind of remember all of that.
How could you forget that?
No, that was
that
was quite a night.
Right. All right, Rach, I think you're next up here.
All right, well, let's go back to you as a broadcaster.
Did I fill the half hour up here?
Hey, we're almost done now. Yeah, right.
Yeah, you might have. You said maybe avoiding arrest might be a strength of you as avoiding arrest might be a strength of you as a broadcaster. Yeah. But what makes a good hockey play-by-play guy? You're so good at it. You've had so much success. What makes a good person in that role?
Oh boy, I don't know. That's a good question. Being able to follow the play, I guess. That's probably the biggest thing. Painting the picture using some descriptive words, but not overly descriptive. There's just some of the broadcasters will say so many flowery words that you can't follow it, because you got to remember that the listener, every time you say a word that doesn't necessarily fit or make sense or whatever, that listener is sitting there thinking about what you said, trying to figure out what you said, and so they miss the rest of the play going on. So I think it's important to be, especially in a fast-moving sport like hockey, where you got to be smooth. You can't do too much to take the mind of the listener off of what's going on. Again, painting the picture, seeing the flow, and sticking with the play.
One of the things that I will remember about you is not the calls you've made when the Amherst scored. I always enjoyed some of the calls you made when the other team scored. And for example, there's a game, had to be 8-10 years ago. Amherst were up 4-1 in the third. The game was over, and somehow gave up 4 goals in the span of like 7 minutes. And on the 5th goal, your call was essentially shot, score, oh no! And to me, it was so authentically you. How do you keep that authenticity when it comes to the job you're doing of being the broadcaster?
When I started out, that was a no-no. Mm-hmm. You were supposed to be biased, unbiased, and I never was, and I didn't apologize for it. I said, hey, I work for the team. I'm paid for the team. I want my team to win. I want to go all the way in the playoffs. And if you're trying to hide it, you know, Thad, the listener's going to know it. They're going to know if you're hiding something, and so why hide it? And so, yeah, I used to get a lot of criticisms for being such a homer, but I said, you're darn right I'm a homer, absolutely, and I want my team to score. I don't want the other team to score. So to me, that's part of the whole thing is the listeners that supposedly are listening to me are the same boat I am. They want the Rochester Americans to win. So I can't. It's just was my own thing. I think pretty much it's always done that way now. But I was one of those that was, I think, way ahead of the game at that point.
I think that authenticity too is why so many people have resonated with you over the years, and so many people say they grew up listening to your voice and just really what you mean to the city of Rochester. But what has this city given you?
Yeah, I love that. Oh, I've been listening to you all my life. Excuse me, but you look like you're older than me. I get that all the time. And again, it comes back to what we talked about earlier, is that it means perhaps more now than it would have then. I think as I'm coming to the end, that I have really affected, hopefully not infected, but affected so many people in the world. I got a call the other day from somebody in Chicago. Says, "Oh, I've grown up listening to you all my life," and I says, "Oh, you're from Rochester?" Says, "No, I live in Chicago." Well, how did you hear my games? So I never did get an answer to that, but anyway, so it's fun, it's exciting, it's humbling, and I don't know what other words to use for it, but it sure beats the other side where, oh, you're worthless, go find something else to do. So I've been very blessed, to say the least.
Have you thought about what the last game is going to be like for you?
I was wishing that it was on home ice, but it's on the road. The only thing that's fitting...
Well, it could be a playoff game in theory, I guess.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. The only thing is, so I had in mind what I wanted to do if the last game was on home ice and I knew it was the last game. But the only way you know it's the last game is if you don't make the playoffs or you win Game 7 of the championship.
Or you're down 5-0 in an elimination game too, I guess.
Well,
you mean going into the game?
Yeah,
I got you.
Yeah. Planning for doing something at the last broadcast. So that's not happening. We're finishing on the road. I guess it's kind of poetic justice that if it's going to be my last game somewhere, if we don't make the playoffs, it's in Hershey, which has been our biggest rival for all the years that I've been here. So that's kind of fitting. It's just our last game is the 19th of April here, and then we go to Wilkes-Barre the next night and Hershey the following night to wind up the regular season. And then, as we talked about, if we can make the playoffs, right now it looks like it would be either Toronto or Cleveland that we would play in the first round of the playoffs.
Separate of the process, though, what emotionally, what do you think it'll be like? The last game.
Emotionally?
Yeah, the last game. Mm-hmm.
I'll be a wreck. I'm trying to keep my emotions out of it, but it's not working. I don't know how you. It's been my whole life, and no, I don't know how it's going to go. I've got to try and get through it somehow. I think that prior to the game on the 4th will be the night in which I'll say, I guess, the things I want to say in a pregame moment. That's going to be the toughest part.
Just very quickly as we wrap things up here, when this is all said and done, how do you want to be remembered?
Well, as being extremely handsome and a great personality. That's not happening.
Done.
So,
Done.
That's not happening. So I guess that I did my job, that everybody liked what I did. And I think so far where there's so much hate in the world these days, and you've followed it, so many people that are so quick to criticize on social media and stuff like that. I'm not being criticized. I don't mean to sound egotistical, but that's something that is really, to me, is impressive. I must be doing something right, and I am very appreciative of. I get basically nothing but support from fans, from other teams in the league. The tributes that they have done in these games has just been, like I say, it's embarrassing. It's so humbling.
All right, Don, it's been great having you. Thank you so much for joining us. Good luck, obviously, with the rest of the season. It's been a pleasure to talk to you and hear all of your stories, all of your crazy stories as well. But that is going to wrap things up here for this week's ROC Hockey Weekly. Thank you so much for joining me. For Thad Brown, I am Rachel Liebert. We will catch you next week.
Get the Rochester First streaming app today for everything you love from News 8 On Demand, plus exclusive shows you won't see anywhere else. Search ROC and download for free on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV.